For pretty much everything that is endgame in Timberborn, you are going to need treated planks. Whether it's the glorious dirt excavator, or the magical infinite metal mine that lets you basically form as much metal as you want. Treated planks are required, and so much that, you need a few thousand of them to actually finish the game as well. So let's find out how we get the pine resin for treated planks, how much we actually need, and why on earth I don't have a forester planting these trees. Oh, wait a second, I just completely forgot about the best reason to have treated planks. They let you make these amazing spiral staircases that just solve so many problems. To make pine resin, you need pine trees, but the thing is, these pine trees cannot be cut down, because if you cut them down, then they cannot generate the pine resin. So here's basically how it would work. You would plant some pine trees, your foresters would come over and plant them down. Perfect. However, if this area overlaps with your cutting area, then, your lumberjacks will just cut them down. So you can't have that. You need to unmark these so that they never get cut down. But you see, I like to keep my pine trees separate from my lumberjack areas. As you can see, there's only oaks over here. That is where this place comes into play. I've left some pine trees alive over here, and as you can see, there's little baby pine trees growing over here. So let's just create a tapper shack over here for now. If a pine tree is looking all gooey like this, then it has resin ready to be harvested. But of course, that can only be done by a tapper who's working in one of these buildings. Eventually, as this colony goes on, these pine trees are going to basically take over all of this area. And I'm not going to need a forester at all for that. It's gonna take a while, but it's gonna happen sooner or later. Once you have the pine resin, all you need is a wood workshop, and then you're gonna ask, wait a second, how on earth is this getting powered? Well, for that you need to subscribe for the next video where I talk about all the fun stuff that you can do with dynamites. So how much resin does a single pine tree even make? Well, the answer to that is fairly simple actually. You see, a pine tree takes 7 days to produce 2 resin, which means that it makes 0.285 resins per day. That is a ridiculous and weird number. If you just plant 100 pine trees, you're going to get 28.5 resin per day, which should be more than enough for you to actually finish the game if I'm being honest. A much better way to look at this would be to see how many pine trees you need for a single wood workshop. So without any working speed bonuses, you need 3 hours to use up 1 pine resin. That means in a 24-hour shift, you would basically be using 8. I prefer to keep my working hours at 18, which means I'm going to use 6 pine resins per day, because 18 divided by 3 is 6. However, my worker over here has a working speed bonus of 100%, so that means they work twice as fast, which ultimately means that instead of 6, I need 12 per day. So if we just copy this weird number over here, and then we divide 12 by that weird number, we get the number of pine trees that I need to plant, which is basically 42. But honestly, ain't nobody got time for that, okay? So in my opinion, just go ham with it. Just build a lot of pine trees and make sure that, you're above the minimum number. Worst case scenario, if you need the wood suddenly, you can just chop half of them off, and please don't do that. Please don't. Just make a nice forest like this, okay? Don't chop off your pine trees for wood. So because of the way treated planks work, you're not going to be using them all the time. Instead, what's going to happen is that there are going to be times when you use a lot of it, and there are going to be times when you basically don't use any. Which is why it's a really good idea to start stockpiling these as soon as you start making them. And honestly, you can go a little bit ham with them anyway. Lord knows you're going to need a lot just to finish the game, okay? Once you actually reach the endgame though, the treated planks start having a purpose, and you're gonna need more than a single wood workshop at that point. So make sure you remember the math, okay? Why would the treated planks have a purpose? Well, these scrap metals over here, they don't last forever. You see, they have a limited amount. They run out. So sooner or later, what you're gonna need to do is come over here and place this on top of one of these underground ruins. Wait a second, no, this is the wrong one. There's another one over here that I like. This one. That one in there. But if you see over here, your beavers are going to be using treated planks to make scrap metals. By the way, they're going to use 1 treated plank every 1.8 hours, and a single wood workshop takes 3 hours to make a single one, if there's no productivity bonuses, But hey, if there's a productivity bonus over here, then there's also going to be a productivity bonus over there. So what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 workshops for 2 things. Firstly, to keep up with the cost of the mine, and secondly, to actually make some so that your beavers can store them over here. Got it? Got it. Also, have you noticed something about this planting method? Something different about the trees maybe? Yeah, the trees look very natural when planted this way because, they're dispersed randomly instead of being in a fixed grid. Look at these ones in comparison. These ones are super boring compared to those ones, okay? And hey, if you're not a fan of this look, then the funny thing is that you can make a forester, plant all of these down, and then just get rid of the forester because you're not going to be cutting these trees down. So there's no point in, keeping a beaver employed, I don't know, just to watch over them. Seems kind of dumb. Did I miss anything? I might have. Not sure yet. You'll let me know, right? Smash that subscribe button and join me next time as we discuss some other fun stuff over here. Yeah, this map has grown on me. Well, I already loved this map, but hey, it's grown on me tenfold now.